everyone, and welcome to my latest vlog. I'm back in my usual spot. I'm afraid I've had to stand slightly to the right from your point of view where you're viewing, because it's a really hot sunny day and the sun is really bright, and if I stood in front of the tree I can barely open my eyes. So having tried that, decided, no, as much as I like the continuation and the consistency of always vlogging in exactly the same spot in front of the same tree, I'm afraid I've had to slightly shift the location. Anyway, thank you for joining me for this vlog. Today I'm going to talk about my sleep album. I've been meaning to make this vlog for a good few weeks now, and other things have taken precedence, and I didn't have a moment to do it. It's still me who packs your vinyl and takes it all to the post office and pretty much does everything on the entire production and the design side of making records, and it takes quite a long time. So sometimes I don't get time to do as much vlogging and talking to my listeners as I would like, so I'm going to try and do better at that. But anyway, thank you if you've said nice things to me about my sleep album. It's greatly appreciated, and I read all the comments and messages that come in, so it was really lovely to read things that had made me think I've made an album that really has, it's really useful, as well as being a piece of art, as well as being a record. So also there were some questions, so I've gathered some of the questions and I'm going to answer them today, or try to. So here we are. I'm really loving your sleep album. Thank you. Are these proven frequencies or things you find relaxing? So there's been a lot of research into which sound frequencies are most conducive to sleep, relaxation, meditation, and there are some consistencies in much of the outcome of various research projects. But I am an artist and musician first and foremost, and I feel that my job is to solve problems through art rather than science. So with an awareness of commonly accepted ideas of which frequencies of sound are most likely to make people sleep or relax, I had those in mind, but I began to make the album from my usual artistic perspective. What I will say is the majority of the sound on the record is below 500 kilohertz, and what was above it in my completed tracks, when I was mixing the album, I really made very quiet in each track, and it's very unobtrusive. So I was aware of frequencies of sound, but I didn't want to restrict myself initially artistically by thinking, okay, everything I make has to fit this specific set of criteria around sound frequency and sound design. So I took mostly my usual artistic approach, which for me is to sit down at various instruments and make a lot of noise. Some of it is suitable for the project and some of it isn't, so that is ultimately jettisoned or archived for other projects in the future. So sometimes if I make something I think is good but is not right for the album in hand, then I will archive it for later. So yeah, I've got quite a lot of things in the archive that may appear in future projects but were not right for this one. So that's the approach that I took there. So next question. I am playing your latest album, Sleep, on repeat. How did you make the very unique soundscape? So as time's gone by, I think of increasingly using my own audio recordings, which I then heavily morph into sounds that bear little relation to how they started out. So, of course, an album, I suppose there's a lot of piano in it, but it doesn't sound as we would normally expect piano to sound. I made a lot of my own samplers, so how one would use a virtual instrument plugin. So I've made quite a few of those. I've got quite a collection of percussion instruments. There is the sound of a water bottle that you will hear as a kind of bell or cymbal. The field recordings, so the bird song, the thunderstorm, all of those noises, I've been recording those myself over the past 3 or 4 years. So I was able to draw on all of those recordings, which I hope has resulted. Sorry, I was slightly distracted. I thought that was a bee that was going to land on me. All of that has resulted, I think, in quite a unique soundscape that you wouldn't be easy to replicate, because those sounds I've just talked about didn't come out of a box. They were recorded over quite a long period of time. Which brings me on to my next point. I've had a few emails asking, would I make my recorded sounds available as virtual instruments for other people to use. I'm very interested in this idea, and I'm certainly willing to explore it and to have a go. I don't know how good I will be at UX and UI design, so what I might be quite basic at first, but I'm certainly willing to have a go at doing that if anyone would be interested in trying those out, if I were to do so. So yeah, please do send me an email, drop me a note if that's something that you would be interested in. So, how did you manage to imbue the album with its signature focused meditative quality? Well, I had to think about how to answer this question, but something I've noticed about myself is that I seem to subconsciously employ a sort of method acting type technique to making an album, which is to say I like to try and put myself in the environment that the music is designed for. Thinking deeply about where listeners might listen to an album, how it might be used, what the backdrop might be. So I made a lot of this album quite late at night or in the early hours of the morning. You'll see there's an earlier video on my YouTube where I am in fact recording piano in the early hours of the morning whilst wearing my pyjamas. But it wasn't necessarily a premeditated idea to take that approach, but the more I worked on the album, the more it just seemed right, and there were better outcomes to my attempts to write and make the album. It seemed when I did it at night, or early hours of the morning, when environmentally the world was quiet and life was quiet, there were few interruptions, and time seemed to pass more slowly, and I was able to just focus on, in that moment, just making music. And I also noticed, being awake at times when maybe I wouldn't normally be, how magical and ethereal nighttime hours can be. So the sun setting, golden hour, blue hour, the deepest, deadest black of night, and then how slowly the sun rises and nature reawakens. And yeah, there was something very beautiful and magical about it, which I hope I managed to get somehow subconsciously inside the album. It was also very useful from the point of view of making any additional field recordings, so things like bird song and the thunderstorm and rain, because obviously you have to wait for those things to happen. The thunderstorms don't happen that often, rain doesn't happen that often, and very often if it's in the daytime, when I try to make field recordings of those things, sometimes it's more difficult because there'll be other environmental noise that one wouldn't want, so a passing car, a passing aircraft, or a car door slamming, things like that, that would mean it was more difficult. So yeah, there was something about making a quiet album designed for sleep, rest, meditation, that it just seemed right to make it in the night hours or early hours of the morning, rather than trying to do it in day. So yeah, I think that's the best answer I can give to that question. And also something else that I suppose was quite difficult, not difficult but challenging with the album, is when I am normally making a record, it's from the point of view that it's going to be actively listened to. Every note is potentially going to be listened to, thought about, analysed. But a sleep album, of course, sorry, it's a sort of thing flying about. I'd want it to be entertaining, pleasant to listen to, something that added value and enhanced people's experience of whatever was going on in life in that moment. But also, if a listener were to fall asleep, then the music needs to very much sink into the background and be unobtrusive. So in a way, I'm making an album that is a contradiction in the sense that it's designed to be enjoyed and to be listened to, but also ultimately designed to be ignored. So that was something else that was challenging, but I think I solved the problem in the end by making something where the melodies seamlessly interlocked over a very long time frame in the record. So there are no jarring sounds, there are no jarring key changes or changes of melody. Hopefully, it's a record that unfolds slowly and beautifully over 8 hours, which is, in a way, it's a luxury to have that amount of time to play with. But it did mean I had to think about things a little bit differently, as of course from the point of view that I would always make an album or a record with the viewpoint that it would be listened to from beginning to end as a body of work. Of course, not everybody listens to music like that. They play their favourite tracks. I play my favourite tracks. So it's a very normal way to listen to a record. But from an artistic point of view, I always want to make my albums to be something to be listened to from beginning to end as one experience, which when a record is 8 hours long is quite difficult. So it was quite harder to review it, and again it was somehow easier to do that at night in the circumstances where the record would be designed to be listened to. So I hope I've answered some of your questions. I'm just going to check my camera's still on. Next question. Will there be a vinyl release of this record? Will there be a vinyl release? Yes, and keen observers of my Bandcamp page will note. I have resolved the dilemma and decision around how to release an 8-hour long record on vinyl. So as many of you will know, there's a limit to the amount of noise one can put on each side of a vinyl record, and it's generally accepted that it's up to around 22 minutes. Beyond that, if one tries to cram any more or much more noise on to a side of vinyl in terms of minutes, sound quality will really diminish. So in order to release Sleep as is, it would take more than 12 vinyl records, and I thought that was a little excessive and probably untenable. And then equally I thought about, well, can I edit this down and condense it down to being a double vinyl LP? But then I thought, I would lose at that point so much of the melody and so much of the, the various aspects of the album, which I think make it special. And I decided that that was going a little too far with the editorial process. So I've come up with a solution which I hope will be agreeable to everyone who does want to own Sleep on vinyl. As you will note, Sleep is divided into 16 sections or 16 tracks, but essentially the 16 are a part 1 and a part 2 of 8 separate tracks. And I did that to break tracks that were an hour long or just over an hour long, so that if listeners wanted to listen to something shorter, that would be possible. But the part 1 blends relatively seamlessly into the part 2 from a listening experience if you're listening to the album digitally. So I had an idea, which is that I will release as late cut vinyl editions each of the 8 tracks, and put part 1 on side A and part 2 on side B. So there will be 8 vinyl records in total. They will be late cut. There will be no wastage and no excess. I will make exactly the right number of vinyl records to fulfill my orders. And I will release one of these vinyl records every 2 months. So the first, Circadia, is already available to order on my Bandcamp. If you've ordered already, as I know some of you have, thank you. So that order will remain open for a few more weeks. And then I will move on to releasing the second of the tracks from the album, I think during the early part of June. And I will continue that process, one record every 2 months, until the whole album has been released on vinyl. So hopefully that will result in a really lovely listening experience that remains true to the ethos of the Sleep album, but still enables listeners to have it on vinyl. So I think I'm going to wrap up with this vlog there today. Any questions or comments or anything at all, email me, send me a message through Bandcamp is probably best, but anywhere at all, and I will gladly answer any questions or queries that you may have. So I do read all of your comments, and I do delight in reading them, and I do also appreciate your ideas and feedback that can ultimately help me to make music and records and art for you all to enjoy. And thank you also to my listeners, both old and new, who have supported my art and music. It's very much appreciated, and I hope that this video is going to look okay, because it's been quite hard to shoot with this very bright sunlight. So fingers crossed. Anyway, I look forward to bringing you another vlog post and more wonderful music and art that I hope you will enjoy soon. Take care. Bye bye.